Flight boss, bitch, for sure. You're not listening to the Mind Eminent Terry's Moon, Flight boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now I'm here to explain the original house system. So we're going to get very ancient. I don't even care if your astrology system that you cling to don't go back this far. I'm Archangel Uriel. So right now we're gonna go way ancient and we're gonna go to the original house system. Now right now there's many different ways that we calculate the house system today. And correlating the house system, this helps you understand that the objects or the things that sustain in the space at the moment matters none. The space matters all. You know what I'm saying? So this is why it's important to understand the horoscopic system too, because if you was to get into energies of understanding other areas in this universe, then you will understand the horoscopic system and you will be able to apply it there also. So this will raise your consciousness. But for the most part, when we talk about a horoscopic system, this is helping you understand the locations of the space. Even when there's nothing in that space, you know the vortex and you know how that space is spiraling. You know the energy signature of that space. So the spaces don't change, just the things that's moving through the spaces, aka you and me and all the stars. We are all stars. So for the most part, this is why it's important to understand that. Now, you kind of know how we understand the house system today. So based upon, say you was born in Aries season. So we know at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning, when the sun rises on the eastern horizon, it's always going to be rising in the Aries star constellation. But what you need to understand is the space doesn't change. So always at 6 a.m. in the morning, it's always going to be the first house. That's always going to be the first house. And then that's 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. is always going to be the 12th house. You see what I'm saying? You understand? So the houses, and then once we calculate the system, this kind of changes in a way for you. But the spaces always remain. So when the sun goes into Taurus season, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. becomes the first house, but the backdrop is Taurus there. So you see how you start to understand? So no matter when you're born, this is how you know what house your sun is going to be in, and this is how you know which is your first house. You see what I'm saying? Based upon the time you was born. So you was born in the time of that house, so that house became your first house. You see what I'm saying? So for an example, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. is going to always be the fourth house. But what sign is in that fourth house is dependent on what time of the year, what the time and the year you was born. So you see what I'm saying? That's letting you know how to calculate the ascendant. Now we're going to go back to the original house system, right? Now back in the and if you was to do this procedure, what you're going to find out and what you're going to understand is this actually holds more weight to, and is actually closer to your true nature than the actual house system that you got that's presented to you based upon society. So your house system that you've been going along, yeah, that's how you correlate yourself in society. So your ascendant and all that, that's how you in your midheaven, that's in your fourth house, and which is your IC or whatever they want to call it, and your seventh house. These is how you present yourself and bounce off with the world that you are in. But it's almost like an alignment in certain ways. So you have to look at it like an alignment in certain ways, but it's still you. So like I said, my ascendant is in a Leo. So yeah, the way I present myself in this world and the way I'm seen may be in a Leo way, but my sun is constructed. So this is how you know what's constructed. Now your sun sign, what is your sun sign? How you act, what you're consciously aware of, how you see things, how you view things, what other people view from you, how they see your actions and how they consciously aware of your actions and what they see from you. So it's enlightenment. It's how you see things in general and your actions, and it give you the energy, the light of your actions. So this is the sun. So your sun is constructed. So basically it's constructed by the angles that's hitting it, and it's constructed by the house that it's in. So the house that it's in is telling you where you're paying attention to a lot, where you give a lot of your energy to, what enlighten you, a lot of your actions that you like to pay attention to, and what other people may see off of you. So the house that is in is the area of life that's being illuminated. But here's the thing with the ancient house system. The house that your sun falls in actually becomes your first house. So this is another aspect letting you know how your sun is constructed, how your actions and how people view you in general, how you act and how you view things in general. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, your sun, this is closest, like for an example, and we ain't even know like we say the equinoxes and things started at Aries, so now wherever Aries is traveling, that's just when we pinpointed that energy and we giving it. We don't know what started, where it started, and how it started. So let's just say we have no names for nothing, and we just looked at everything as lights or stars or whatever like that. For the most part, this is where the original house system kicks in. So whatever house your sun falls in, that becomes your first house. Now back then there's an actual calculation to this, because the sun rises from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. Now back then we ain't have clocks, so we just looked at the transition of the sun. So the transition when the sun first rises, when it appeared to be here, when it appeared to be here. There's different energy signatures playing out on the earth, and everybody are reacting to these energy signatures differently based upon the species or the being. They're reacting and responding to this energy different. So this is telling us the characteristics that's being played upon. So we're going to call it the first, second, until we separate this pie into 12 different locations, because it's a 360. So they were smart enough to understand that without clocks. This is inner clock right here, your inner clock. So for the most part, this is how we understood position. We might not even have called it houses. We might have just called it, this is the position and this is the energy signature that you giving it off. But since we got tools, the calculations today, let's skip a process so you can understand it. So say your sun is in the 7th house, right? This means your first house is actually constructed around your around 7th house type energies. So what does this mean? Your sun and your personality becomes one. This becomes you. So all this outer aspect that was added on to astrology after astrology, flight astrology, was the aspects of you being able to separate your personality from your actions and the way you act. So that's all good when you're placing yourself in society. That's your natal chart now. But this is your original chart. So this is when everything comes to one. So for the most part, your sun and your personality, all that is constructed into one thing. So your first house, the house that your sun falls in, becomes your first house. So for the most part, if your sun is in the 7th house, this becomes your personality also. It's about to die. So your actions and the way you act and how you see things is backed and supported by your relationships and how you relate to people, places, and things. So that's how you act, and your personality is constructed in that manner. You see what I'm saying? 1 second. Hello? Oh, it's good. All right, yep. All right, one. All right. Yeah, so if it's in the 7th house, that's how you correlate and construct your actions. The way you act and the things you mostly pay attention to is correlated around relationships and how you relate to people, places, and things. And that's your actions. That's the way you act. You act relatable, and you act like you are paying attention to your relationships, which as far as on every level. Every Titanic ship that may lead off a cliff into a dam or into the promised land. But for the most part, whatever relationship it is, co-worker, friendship, relationship, siblings, family, whatever kind of relationship that you have, or child, children, whatever relationship, this is what your actions is paying attention to. Now for the most part, like I said, and this is how you would calculate it, since that's your first house, your second house becomes your 8th house. So the things that you value, which is originally your second house, your people, places, and things that you value, and your values in general, and the things that you have to offer to the world, whether it's internally or externally, plus the areas of life that you plant seeds and build your self-esteem on. That your values is your desires, your passions, your alternative motives, your greed, your jealousy, or your way of looking at the behind the scenes realm, your ability to investigate or detective work to bring what's in the dark to the light. You see what I'm saying? So whether you get manipulated or getting cheated on, or you're the manipulative one, or you're cheating on, all that energy, these are type of things that you value. You value life, death, sex, occult, mysticism, astrology. These are things that you value, and this is what you feel like you have to offer to the world. Your 3rd house becomes your 9th house. You see what I'm saying? So your 3rd house is your surroundings and everything in your close proximities and all things you're familiar with. But you got to be familiar with it. It got to be on that part of your brain, the familiar part, not the unfamiliar part, the familiar part, which could be a person, place, or thing, gift, talent, trait, or something you have learned along the way. Now, your surroundings, this is how you gain wisdom. This is what you always experience. This is your meanings of reasonings. This is your long distance travel, short distance travel, internally and externally. This is where you extract all your philosophical points of views of things of that nature. This is where you you place all your high meanings and low meanings of reasonings and education level in your surroundings. You see what I'm saying? Your fourth house become your 10th house. So how you see, how you're seen, what you're known for, your status, your career is revolved around your home, private issues, family, domestic issues. You see, and you could break it down. Say you got the sun in say your sun is in the 2nd house. Then that becomes your 1st house. So, and this is a system. It's good to use your system now, but this is the system that you understand your true self, and then you apply the systems we got out now for the house systems. But let's say your son is in it for the original house system. Let's say your son is in the 2nd house, right? Then that becomes your 1st house. So your personality, personal issues, and affairs is absorbed around the things you value, the people, places, and things, and the resources and the jobs you value, what you have to offer to the world. This is what you're personally into. So when people understand your personality, they like, oh, this person is a personality of values, or they personally are wrapped up into their what they had to offer to the world, or they may be cocky, or they may be their personal issues and affairs always revolved around where they're planting seeds at. You know what I'm saying? As far as trying to make grow a circumstance or a situation they're trying to make grow in their life. Boom, your 2nd house become the 3rd house. So the 2nd house is your values, and your the things you have to offer to the world becomes your surroundings and becomes the things that you're familiar with. So say if you got a gift, talent, or trait, or a person that's around you that you're familiar with that can take you from point A to point B, this is what you value. This is what you feel like you have to offer to the world, because the 3rd house becomes your 2nd house. You see what I'm saying? Your 4th house becomes your 3rd house. So the way you handle domestic issues, home, privacy, family, you handle that in a sociable way, in a familiar way. So even if you might have people in your life who handle things and handle domestic and family issues in unfamiliar ways, you handle it in familiar ways. So these people may look unusual. When you step into other people's households, that their households and their traits may be indifferent than your household, and how you do things in your household, you'll look at them as weird and something like that. So it plays out like that in a bunch of different scenarios. Let's say if you had the sun in the 8th house. So your actions, the way you act and how you see things, well, your personality in general, your personality, personal issues, and affairs is absorbed around transformation, power and control, deep things that's behind the scenes. So you may be personally an intense person. You might go through a bunch of emotional chaos because you hold a lot of stuff in. So it makes you have an aura that make people think you're up to something or manipulative. So you need to clear out a lot of things, or get a close friend that you can have these releasing moments or these brooding moments to yourself, so you don't be carrying any type of aura to the point that you got intensity or energies on you that create scenarios that make other people see you in ways you don't want to be seen. Scorpios have that habit. But for the most part, when you just have the sun in the 8th house, in general, no matter what sign is here, this is what your personality constructed of. You handle your personal issues sacred. You don't like everybody else knowing your personal issues and affairs. You handle and then your personality a lot of times is very reserved. Only when it's time to handle your desire or reach out for your desires and passions, then that's when people see your true personal nature. Your 2nd house become the 9th house. So you value, and what you feel like you have to offer to the world is your form of education, your form of experiences, your meanings of reasonings, your broad philosophical points of views of the world. A lot of teachers got this placement. You see what I'm saying? Your 3rd house become the 10th house. So your surroundings and what you're familiar with is things that you want to bend your career around, or want to be known for, want to be seen, want to be part of your status. This makes you probably a very popular person and don't know why you're popular. Right? You probably got the sun in the 8th house. So your 1st house becomes your 8th house, but you may not know the original house system to know that's what's actually happening. You might know other alignments to tell you that's what's happening, but the true nature of why that's happening is because your 1st house became your 8th house, and your 2nd house became your and your 3rd house became your 10th house. So the 10th house represents what you're known for, your status, how you're seen, which ultimately can become your career and what you could gain popularity from. So for the most part, that's in your surroundings. So you're probably automatically popular in your neighborhood. You probably automatically can get jobs like this in your neighborhood. You probably the things that you're familiar with, you automatically can gain stability in your life from it. You see what I'm saying? It plays out in so many different scenarios. Let's do a last but not least one. Let's say your sun was in the 12th house, right? So your personality and your actions also is constructed behind your dreams, illusions, creativity, and imagination. So a lot of times you may subconsciously present your personality, even in ways that's distasteful to others. Like, you just don't never hold back your personality. Sometimes you daydream, and a lot of times, and you just express yourself whether people like it or not, because it's in the subconscious world. You think this is your creativity, something that's dealing with your personality, personal issues, and affairs. So your personality is always personally into dreams, illusions, creativity, and imagination, the supernatural, spirituality. Now, your second house becomes the first house. So you value your personality. You value other people's personality. You feel like your personality is what you have to offer to the world. Key word: a lot of comedians have this placement. People who are comedians have great personalities, and they're able to value that personality and present it in a way, and they can handle their personal issues and curate their personal affairs with that same energy. You see what I mean? So your second house becomes the first house becomes your second house. Your values and what you have to offer to the world is your personal issues, personal affairs, and personality. A lot of comedians got this placement. Look, think about if you had a personal issue, right? But you value that, and that's part of what you have to offer to the world. So one of your personal issues is what you have to offer to the world. So your pain become other people's laughter. You can think about Kevin Hart, all kind of people, and things of that nature who take a stressing moment in their life and personalize it out into the world and help other people personal issues and affairs. See what I'm saying? So and do it with creativity and imagination. It goes deep. But that's how you correlate. So I think y'all understand now. And now that you understand, this is a whole new... It's not new. Nothing's new under this sun. Especially not the Saturn sun or any other suns. Saturn ain't a sun, but it's a star that was once in the location of where this star is at, that y'all call the sun now. But for the most part, what you need to understand is... this is not entirely new, but it's new in this in this specific location, in this realm of reality right now. But there was a time as spirits that I was here that we was actually teaching. I was in all realms of realities, teaching all forms of astrology. When we die, my whole soul group, we gonna transform into a higher realm of reality, and it's gonna be the same shit here. Y'all still gonna have me, I'm still gonna have y'all, and we still gonna be teaching these motherfuckers each other. And no matter the shape and form and the language and sigils we do it there, that's how it's gonna be done there. I'm just telling y'all a time before this time. There was a time we calculated the house system in this way. You see what I'm saying? And presenting knowledge like that is more true. The further back is further in. Past is really in. Your memory is like going within the Akashic records. So down is really going in. You see what I'm saying? So you're really going, the further back you go is the more within you going. So you find out more of yourself with more truer, older calculation systems like this one. You see what I'm saying? Flight astrology. Flight bus, bitch. Goddamn air. Know thyself.